With global warming and the rising of temperatures, it looks like the west and east coast are continually getting slammed with worse and worse storms. California bracing for a ton of flooding, and now on the east coast, uh, they're getting hit with a bunch of snow.
This hour with the extreme weather that's slamming both the east and west coast. On the west coast, millions are under a flood warning after days of relenting snow and rain. And now there are fears about potentially life-threatening flooding, mudslides, and avalanches.
Meanwhile, on the east coast, a late season nor'easter, the first of the season. It's burying parts of upstate New York and New England under more than a foot of snow. New York's governor already declaring a state of emergency. NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton is in one of my favorite places, Worcester, Massachusetts. Also with us, meteorologist Bill Cairns. I'll start with you, Antonia, and I can already tell it looks really cold up there. Yeah. My son goes to college there, so that's why I like Worcester. What are you dealing with there and across the Northeast?
Well, Kate, we have a couple factors going on here. The first, of course, is heavy snow that's been coming down since the early morning hours of this morning. And this is the heavy, sticky stuff, the kind of snow that accumulates, it sticks, it's hard for people to plow. And so the city of Worcester has about 325 different trucks going all across the city, trying to keep roads as clear and as safe as possible. But they're still warning people that it's hazardous conditions out here. They've been urging people for days leading up to this storm to not commute today, to not go out and run errands if they really didn't have to. The other factor here is also high winds that could knock trees down, take down power lines. Already more than 60,000 people in Massachusetts are without power today. So that brings up some other emergency challenges and messages that people are trying to get out right here in Massachusetts. The first, if you're at home and your power is out, you're trying to charge devices or get warm in your car, do not do it in a garage. And the other, to take emergency kits with you, flashlights, if you're planning to get out on the road and travel. They're worried about people who they might struggle to reach or who could have challenges in some smaller, not so well cleared roads. And, Kate, this is an area where people are prepared for winter. You probably will see some people walk by me even in shorts on, but that kind of overconfidence can lead to mistakes. And they're trying to make sure people don't make those the next 2 days.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say anything about my son,
I was just going to say, is Zach prepared? I hope he's got full-length pants on, Kate.
I'm not sure.
Antonia, thanks so much. Well, Bill, let's get to you. You're tracking both systems. Let's start with what Antonia was just talking about, East Coast. What's the latest track?
It is March. I mean, March in New England means you can bring the shorts out. That's pretty much March to November is kind of the season. So we had the big storm going into the west, and now our nor'easter is really cranking. The winds are going to start being the story as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon and rest through this evening. The power outages are also adding up. Right now, we're roughly about 250,000 people without power. It's a heavy, wet snow. It's like concrete.
Wow, 250,000 people without power and the snow. That's going to be pretty dangerous. I mean, we see how bad it got in Texas when they had their snowstorm.
Sticking to everything, and then you get the gusty winds, and that's why the trees are coming down. And so winter storm warnings continue for almost all of New England. The coastal areas, this has not been a big deal. Even the big cities from Boston southwards all the way down to New York, it's just wet pavement. It might as well be rain instead of snowflakes because it's just melting anyways. But the winds will really crank. The storm is going to peak in intensity over the next 12 hours. We're going to see 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts from Cape Cod all the way up through Boston, back up through Portsmouth, heading up towards, beautiful coastline of Maine here. Inland areas won't be as high, but that's where the heavier snow totals have been. We've had totals of over 2 feet in the Berkshires, the Catskills, and also the southern portion of the mountains in Vermont. Now, back to areas of the West Coast, the heaviest rains are now arriving in Santa Barbara. They're going to be with us all afternoon and evening here into Los Angeles. That is where we're concerned with high risk of flash flooding. If we're going to get breaking news out of this West Coast storm, it'll be in the next couple hours in Southern California.
All right, Bill Cairns, Antonia Hilton, thanks so much.